my channel, or welcome back to my channel. My name is Carly Lewis. I am a mama of two sweet little girls and I'm married to my high school sweetheart. I share motherhood content, cleaning videos, lifestyle vlogs, stuff like that. But today I am going to be sharing with you my journey to motherhood and our family's journey to becoming a family of four. Because it was not easy. It was definitely a difficult journey, and October is actually Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month, and I wanted to share with you guys my story, our miscarriage story, and in hopes that it might bring some comfort to anyone that may be going through the same thing or something similar, because everyone's journey is different, everyone's story is different. But I know when I was going through our losses that even though I was blessed enough to have women in my life who had gone through the same thing, unfortunately, but I could talk to them. I also found a lot of comfort in other women sharing their stories on YouTube. So I figured I would give you guys a little background on me first, so you kind of get a better idea of where I'm coming from. I grew up with three other siblings. I am the middle child. I have an older sister, an older brother, and a younger sister. So for as long as I can remember, I knew that my mom had actually suffered miscarriages before my little sister was born. And my little sister is 6 years younger than me, and she's actually kind of like a little surprise miracle baby. My parents had kind of given up trying to get pregnant. My mom had numerous amounts of miscarriages before her, and I knew that that was a possibility to happen. I wasn't naive to the fact that miscarriages happen. So I knew what they were. Even when I was little, I remember knowing what they were. Fast forward to my whole life, teenage life, I always knew whenever anyone would say what they want to be when they grow up and stuff, I didn't have a job in mind. I didn't have a career path that I was so desperate to have, or that I was so passionate about. I just knew that I wanted to be a mom. That was my number one goal in life, was to become a mom, and I'm already tearing up. But it's just that's all I did when I was little. I played babies, I played house, and I had all the babies. My mom was so happy when she had a little girl that was obsessed with babies, because my older sister didn't really play with dolls and stuff, and that was my whole world. Was I wanted to become a mommy. So Wayne and I, right off the bat, we've been together since I was 14. We always, I know teenagers, it's kind of weird to think of teenagers talking like this, but he has three siblings as well, so big families. He always wanted to have a big family as well. And so we got married very young. If you watched in any of my previous videos, we got married when I was 17. I was almost 18, because he was in the military. After we got married, and I moved to Alaska with Wayne, where he was stationed. He deployed to Afghanistan 4 months later. So for 9 months he was in Afghanistan. So we had a good year of marriage before we got pregnant. But 9 of those months 9 months of that year he was in Afghanistan. So Wayne got back from Afghanistan, and we had talked while he was deployed about babies, because one of my other good friends was we're gonna try as soon as he gets back, we're gonna try to have a baby, because her husband was deployed as well. And I remember starting to really seriously think about it, and I was I'm 18, but I want to have a baby too. I was I'm ready to start a family. And I'm not going to name them, because I haven't talked to her to see if she's comfortable about it, but someone very, very close in my life got pregnant while Wayne was deployed. And they're two very special people to me, and I remember just being on top of the world. I was so excited for them, and they had a miscarriage. And I remember just being absolutely heartbroken and devastated. And I was like, how can that happen? Like, how can that happen to you? Even though I wasn't naive to the fact that miscarriages could happen to anyone, you don't have to do anything for you to lose your pregnancy. Like, it is unfortunately such a common thing, but you don't expect it to happen to you, especially I feel like when you're so young. So when Wayne got home from Afghanistan, he got home the very beginning. I remember, I think he got home June 4th of 2014, and I have a couple notes here because our journey was not short, it was very long. So dates and things can get scrambled, but he got home June 4th of 2014, and we were just like, you know what, we're not gonna try, but we're not gonna not try. Like, we're not going to prevent pregnancy. If it happens, it happens. We are so excited. But I was just like, I want to get pregnant, you know. I was so ready to start a family, even though I was only 18. Like, that didn't bother me. I knew that we would be amazing parents. Like, I knew that. So I got pregnant that ovulation cycle after he got back. My ovulation times, like, I didn't really get any of that. Like, I knew you had to ovulate to get pregnant. That's all I knew. So I didn't really know a ton about it. So I didn't know how to pinpoint my dates exactly, but we found out when I was super early, because I just remember feeling different. Like, I never felt that before. I was very, very tiny, and I was very in shape. So once I started, you get those, when I'm pregnant, I get very, very intense round ligament pain, and I get it right off the bat. Like, as soon as but even before I find out that I'm pregnant, and I get implantation cramps pretty severe, and I started spotting, and I was like, you know, that's weird, because I never, like, TMI, but obviously this is, if you're watching this video, it is not TMI. I never spotted before my period. I always just started my period. So, and then it stopped. And this whole time in my head, I'm like, I'm pregnant. So I start testing right off the bat, way too soon. But I start getting very faint positives. I remember it was positive, and they just kept getting darker. So I found out I was pregnant about 6 weeks after he got back from Afghanistan, I believe. Those are the dates. It was a long time ago, but I remember finding out I was pregnant in July, and we were over the moon excited. I called my mom in the middle of the night. We told everyone, anyone you could think of, we told, and I was very nervous. I didn't expect to have that nervousness. When I found out I was pregnant, it was really hard for me to enjoy, because in the back of my head, it's not like I was open about how scared I was, but in my head, I was like, I'm pregnant, but I don't know, if this is going to be a successful pregnancy. I never felt like my pregnancy was going to go to term. I don't know why. I don't know, I wish that I didn't have that feeling, because it took away a lot of the joy of finding out you're pregnant. That was those people that are very, very close in my life. They suffered a miscarriage not too long before that, and I was terrified. I was like, what if this happens to me, you know? And then the part of my head is it's not gonna happen to you. It's not. But I was very scared. And I was also very scared to tell them, because I didn't want to, I knew they would be so ecstatic, but I was really scared that it would make them sad, because I was pregnant and they weren't pregnant again yet. So we didn't announce it because I was so scared, and Wayne wanted to announce it so bad, but I didn't. I didn't let our families announce it, but all of our families and friends knew. Everyone around us in our lives. So then what I was saying was the military doctors don't have you come in for an appointment until you are 8 weeks. You do a pregnancy confirmation, but you just go into the lab and do that. You don't actually have an appointment with anyone. And I was so terrified that something was wrong, like with my pregnancy, that my husband, Cleo, please stop. My dog. She's upset because Wayne took the girls to the park and she wanted to go. But I was so scared that something was gonna happen that my husband and I actually called our insurance, because with TRICARE Prime you can only see military, and unless you're like referred somewhere else. We switched it to TRICARE, like the TRICARE where you could see any doctor that you want. We switched it to that so I could go off base and see a doctor sooner, which ended up being around the same time anyways. I was around 8 weeks when we went in. Or I was around 9. I thought I was around 10 weeks. I was around like 8 weeks. When I got to finally go into the doctor. And I remember going in there and we were so excited, but I was really scared. And I told the guy, like how far along I thought I was and everything. And I remember feeling sick around the time I would have been like 5-6 weeks pregnant, which I feel like is really early to start feeling those symptoms. I felt like I was really sick, but it also kind of felt like it was in my head. Like I was like, I should feel sick right now, so I should feel nauseous, but it might have just been like a nervous nauseous. But I remember I never felt in my first pregnancy that like morning sickness or anything like that. And I remember going into my first appointment and I was like, I don't feel anything. Like I just have a bad feeling that something isn't right. And I felt that my entire first pregnancy. So we went in there, we did an ultrasound on the stomach, like a stomach ultrasound, and it was very silent. He didn't talk a lot, he didn't say anything to us really, and he's like, we're gonna do a vaginal ultrasound. So we did that, and he pretty much just told us like there's no heartbeat, and he was like kind of asking like how far along we thought we were and everything, and I told him, and he was like, well, he saw the sac and everything, but there was no baby. So pretty much I thought I was about 8 or 9 weeks pregnant, or according to like my dates, I would have been around 8 or 9 weeks pregnant, but the sac of the baby, like the growth of it, was like 6 weeks. So the baby passed away pretty early on, and my body just wasn't reacting. My body was holding on to the pregnancy. And he told me, he's like, it could just be too early. And I was like, I don't think you, like, I had this bad feeling. He's like, it could just be too early. And I was so upset. Like, I was like unconsolable in that chair. And he was very insensitive, the doctor was. He told me pretty much, he's like, well, I don't, like, he said, I don't know what you want me to say. And I just remember, like, I wanted him out of the room so bad. I just wanted to talk to my husband. I wanted him out of the room. And thankfully, I don't know if I mentioned this, Wayne got to go to all of my appointments. His job was incredible about letting him have time off for all of my appointments. So he told us, he's like, here, come back in a week and we'll do another ultrasound. So we came back in a week. Nothing. My body hadn't changed. I hadn't miscarried. Nothing. So he told me at that point, like, I knew that whole week before that appointment, I knew that we had lost the baby. My heart was hoping that I was just too early on and that you couldn't pick up a heartbeat yet. But I knew. And when we went in there, it was confirmed that we had lost the baby because there was no heartbeat a week later. And he said, since my body wasn't doing what it was supposed to do to actually miscarry, there was these pills I could take if I didn't want to have a D&C, which a D&C is where they go in and actually have to remove everything. And I didn't want to do any of that. I didn't even want to talk to him about it. I didn't want to take pills. I didn't want to think about it. So I was just like, I just want to go home. After we found out that the baby had passed away, it was 2 weeks after we found out initially that my body did miscarry on its own, and that was just we had already settled, like we had already come to terms with the fact that we had lost our baby, and then it was just like opening the wound again when I actually miscarried, because it's painful. It's not. So after that, you have all those follow-up appointments to find out like when you can start trying again. He told us your HCG levels are back to normal, like you can start trying again after your next cycle. So we wanted to, but I don't think we were emotionally ready. We had a lot of how we coped with that first one. I am so thankful for my husband, because I was not good at coping with our first miscarriage. I was a mess. I was very distant. I didn't talk to him very much. I didn't talk to anyone very much. I was so heartbroken, and I had every right to be. Every mother who has gone through that understands, like, you don't want to feel happy right away. Like, you don't want to smile. You don't want to have hope. You want to be sad. And it's not like, because you're mourning the loss of your baby. And I know some people may not think, like, you never held that baby, like, you never even heard the heartbeat. I never heard this baby's heartbeat. But it was still my baby, and I believed I was still a mom. And I thought from the get-go that that baby was a little girl. I don't know why, like, that's just like, you know, that mother's intuition. I felt like our baby was a girl, so I always called her, like, from right off the bat. I said she. But Wayne and I ended up growing together, and we learned how each other mourned. We had never gone through something like that with each other. I learned how he was in a situation like that. He learned how I was. We learned how to comfort each other. We learned how to give each other space. We learned so much about each other in that time. So we didn't try right away, because we were learning. We were mourning. We were very emotional, and I don't think we were in the state to, because maybe if we were a little older, we were very young, and that doesn't take away from the fact that, like, we could have tried again and been great parents, but I think it was very good for us to wait. We waited a couple months, and then we started the same kind of situation. We didn't try specifically, we didn't prevent. That's like how it went with most of our pregnancies. We just didn't prevent. And it was right around Christmas when we found out we were pregnant with our second baby, and I just remember thinking instant fear. Like, I was so excited, but I was instantly scared. Like, obviously, we had gone through something so devastating, and then we knew that we were trying, like, not trying, but we knew that we could get pregnant, and we wanted to get pregnant. But then once it actually happened, we were so scared. So excited too, don't get me wrong. We were so over the moon, but we were much more cautious with our emotions and who we told. We told our families immediately. I remember just instantly, like, Googling, is it common to have 2 miscarriages in a row? Is it common to have 2 miscarriages in a row? Like, that's all I could think about. I was like, there's no way you can have 2. 2 people I told you that are very near and dear to my heart, they found out they were pregnant. And finding out that someone that you love is having a baby after you have lost your baby is, I don't want anyone to think, like, if someone in your life has gone through a miscarriage and you found out that you are pregnant and you want to tell them, because I remember being so excited for her, because I knew what she was going through before. I knew how hard it was when they had their first miscarriage, and every mother deserves their rainbow baby. Every parent deserves their rainbow baby. So I was so over the moon for her, and we found out that she lost that baby as well, right before I found out I was pregnant with our second baby. So she had 2 miscarriages, and I was just like, you know, how I wanted to know how common it was, because everyone in our lives was just like, how in the world, like, you're healthy, everything, how is there so many, like, how is this happening to so many people? And I feel like it does. It's so, unfortunately, it is so common, and until it happens to you, you don't get into that world of it being common. You don't get into that world of hearing all of these other women's stories because you're not pregnant yet. So, like, it's not something that's truly on your mind, you know? So once we found out we were pregnant, that's when we started hearing all of these miscarriages stories. Or once we lost our first baby, that's when we started hearing everyone else's stories and understanding how common it was and educating ourselves on it, because you need to know, like, you need to know that you're not alone. So we found out we were pregnant. We instantly called our doctor. We were like, we need to confirm this. We got our pregnancy confirmation, and we did an ultrasound at 6 weeks. And we heard the baby's heartbeat. It was something like, it was just like this enormous weight lifted off of my shoulders. So we found out at 6 weeks that I was pregnant, or not that that the baby had a heartbeat and was growing to size. Like, it was the size, the sac and everything. You could see the baby. We saw the heartbeat. You couldn't hear it yet because I was so early on, but we saw it. And I told him how nervous I was, and it was the same doctor. I told him how nervous I was, and he was like, okay. And I think he knew that we got a bad vibe from him with our previous experience. So he was like, okay, well, let's come back in 2 weeks. We hadn't announced it. We told our families and everything, but obviously we were scared. We wanted to be cautious. We went back when I was around 8 weeks, and we heard and saw the heartbeat again. So this time the ultrasound was weird, and he was like, it looks like there was twins. And I was like, twins? And it kind of made sense because I felt terrible right off the bat with this pregnancy. I felt like I could barely move off the couch. I was so sick. I was so, like, lethargic. I was exhausted, beyond exhausted. Like, I had never felt that kind of tired before. And when he told us that, he said it looked like there was twins. And I was like, what do you mean was? And that he said that it looked like, and we saw it a little bit, but we didn't really know what we were looking at. We saw our healthy baby with our heartbeat and everything. Then there was like what looked like a sac almost by the placenta. But he wasn't a doctor, he was a midwife, and he was like, I can't read this exactly, but he wasn't too worried about it. He was like, there's a healthy baby in there, like, it doesn't look like anything is wrong. So, but he's like, I can't confirm to tell you, like, it was twins, which I don't know why he didn't have like a doctor come in that appointment and tell us that, or like have it looked over. I don't know if she was busy or something, but we left that appointment excited because if there was twins, it was very sad that one didn't make it. But he also said it couldn't be confirmed that it was twins. He said it was just weird. Like, we had a very weird ultrasound, but we had a healthy baby. And we were over the moon. We were so excited. My morning sickness, everything, I was taking those little like Preggy chews things, those little ginger chews. And those were like my saving grace because I was working at the time. Okay, sorry. Wayne and the girls just got home and they're outside playing now. But yeah, what I was saying was I was working at the time, so I was really sick, and it just felt like it was like the morning sickness was never ending, but that made me feel good. That made me feel like the pregnancy was progressing, it was healthy and everything. So I finally was like, I got the advice from my mom, and I don't even know if she remembers telling me this, but she was like, don't let fear like control your pregnancy. Enjoy your pregnancy. Even if you have that fear of something happening, even if something happens, enjoy your pregnancy because that's still your baby. Enjoy it. Don't let that like take over your pregnancy. And I have kept that with me through, I have chills, kept that with me through all of my pregnancies since then. And we decided to announce it, and we announced it on Valentine's Day. We had a little picture, and it said, "Our little Valentine." And I was due in September, and it was just like, it was feeling so real, and we let our guards down, and we let ourselves enjoy our pregnancy, and we bought the baby's car seat. We had a very strong feeling it was a boy. We had him named. His name, I don't know if I mentioned this the first time, but our first baby, we had the baby named if it was a girl, and her name was going to be Presley Miranda Lewis. And our second baby, we had named if it was a boy, and we really thought it was a boy. Like, who knows, like we didn't know, but we we're going to name him McKinley because we lived in Alaska, and we had such a love for the outdoors and hiking, and we fell in love with that name, McKinley. And yeah, we were overjoyed. And Wayne was about to go train. We were going to have another ultrasound at 12 weeks. So our doctor let us have it early at 11, or around when we would have been like 10 and a half, 11 weeks, because I wanted him to be there for it. So we went in. Also, like I said, we had announced it and everything. Everyone knew. We were so excited. And I was always watching those pregnancy updates. I loved watching Missy Lanning's videos. I watched Ellie, from Ellie and Jared. Like, I loved watching pregnancy updates, especially pregnancy updates of someone who had went through a loss, because it was like, it gave me so much hope. So fast forward to our ultrasound at about 10 and a half, 11 weeks. I was nervous, like the normal, I always get nervous going into an ultrasound. But I was excited. Like, I did not think anything bad was going to happen. And he was doing my ultrasound. And I also want to mention, like, I had a belly, like I was showing, and it was very strange to me. I didn't think, like, obviously the baby's not that big, but at 10 weeks, like, I had a legitimate hard bump. Like, it was clearly a baby bump. It wasn't just like bloat food and stuff, because I had a hard time eating. I was so sick. So we went in for that appointment, and he was doing the ultrasound, and he was just completely silent. And it is our same doctor. We had the same doctor every appointment. It wasn't like different. He was a midwife. And he was just like, he didn't say anything, like he didn't tell us like where the heartbeat was and stuff, and I knew what to look for at that point. Like, we saw the baby, and we did not see the little beating heart. And he was just like, I'm gonna go get the doctor real fast because I'm having trouble reading this. And she came in after he went and got her, and she was so nice. She helped me so much. And she was reading the ultrasound, and she was looking at it and stuff, and she was told us, there's no heartbeat, you've lost, the baby doesn't have a heartbeat. And I was just like so shocked, but there was also something else on the screen, and she was looking at the placenta, and she was saying the reason the midwife, he had to come get me was because the placenta was filled with, I don't want to call it tumors. It was like crystallized. And she didn't use the word tumor. I can't remember the word she used, but it was full of just cells. And she said that she explained to me what a molar pregnancy was and a partial molar. So a molar pregnancy is when the pregnancy is not a baby at all. It is, your body produces a ton of HCG, and so it comes off as a pregnancy, but all it is a placenta filled with, like a crystallized placenta filled with cells, and it is not a baby. It's just like the placenta filled with cells. So back in the day, before they had ultrasounds or anything like that, the mother would carry the baby to term and deliver it. And I think my mom said it was my great-grandma or my great-great-grandma, something like that. She actually delivered a molar pregnancy before, and it isn't a baby. And like, how devastating would that be to carry a baby to term and then deliver it? And I don't think there's many cases of that, because it's not safe, like, for the mother at all. It's not safe. But I had a partial molar. So what a partial molar pregnancy is there is a baby, and the baby does start growing, and everything is looking good and everything, but then the placenta slowly develops the crystallization, the cells in the placenta, and the baby can't survive. There's no way the baby can survive. So earlier when I said that, around 8 weeks, he said my placenta looked weird, like it looked like there might have been like another sac or something. That's what that was. You just couldn't tell yet because it wasn't, I don't know, I guess it wasn't like too bad then yet. But by the next appointment, which I also still felt awful, like I felt so sick, so I didn't think that could have like happened. I was like, how? Everything happened super fast. Our doctor, the doctor told us that we had to go straight to the hospital from our appointment, and this appointment was about like at 9 in the morning. So we had to go straight to the doctor and schedule my D&C. And I just like, I lost it when we got to the car. I was obviously a mess in the doctor's office, but when we got into the car, I just lost it. I did not know how that could happen. A molar pregnancy is very rare. A partial molar is extremely rare, and it happens more commonly to women between the ages of 18 and 22. I'm not sure why, but that is what we experienced. And with a molar pregnancy or partial molar pregnancy, your HCG levels are extremely high. And so the reason I was showing so much was because the cells in my placenta was very large. So they expanded, obviously my uterus expanded and made me show earlier, and my HCG levels were equivalent to being pregnant that gestational age of triplets. I was so sick, it was extremely high, and with a partial molar pregnancy, the HCG also stays in your system for a long time because I had a D&C, so my body wasn't miscarrying on its own. So I had to go back the next morning for my D&C, and I remember I'd never gone under general anesthesia before, and I was very nervous for that. I was still in shock. I didn't think that was going to happen. I talked to my mom like nonstop. I talked to my family, and Wayne, he was so strong, and I feel like the dad in that situation, if you're in, he has to be so much stronger because he's losing a baby too, and everyone has, obviously, like the mother and the father are strong and they're going through that loss together, but he was always strong for me. He was always the backbone in those situations because he knew, like, I felt like my body was failing. I felt like I could not give us a baby. I didn't understand why it had happened to us again. It was hard. And so I remember laying on the table before they were putting me under, and I was so scared. I was shaking and I was crying, and the ladies in there doing the anesthesia, everyone was a woman. There was no males in there, which was actually made me feel very comfortable. The lady was talking to me and she's like, "It's gonna be okay, sweetheart, it's gonna be all right." And I was so scared, and I woke up and I wasn't pregnant anymore, and I was very closed off. It was very painful recovery from that. You have like the uterine contractions and everything, nothing compared to like obviously going to term and stuff like that, but it was painful. I'm not going to go into what a D&C is, but you can do your research to it if you want, but they're removing the pregnancy from your body. And I think it was like a week later, I had to go back to my doctor, and the D&C did not remove everything. And I had to go in for blood work too to see how my HCG levels were because they were so high. They wanted to make sure that they were going down. and my HCG levels hadn't hardly moved. They weren't going down. And there was still, some of the placenta was still there, so she had to remove it herself in there while I was awake. That was extremely painful, extremely hard. And then after that, everything, she did the ultrasound and everything was gone. She told us that it could be up to a year before we could try again. And her reason being was, it's going to take a while for my HCG levels to go back down. And once they are back down, she wants them to stay there for, I think she said, a minimum of 3 months. But we had a huge support system. We were very, very thankful for our families and our friends. We had a lot of great friends when we lived in Alaska. And I worked, my work was kind enough, and Wayne's work, to let us have, I think Wayne had like a week off and I had like 2 weeks off. It's a very, very hard way. It's very hard to navigate your emotions during that time. After we had the D&C, I had gone back to my appointment and my blood work had not changed. I had to go every week to get my blood drawn and test my HCG levels. And I went every week for a couple months, and then it switched to every 2 weeks, and then it switched to once a month. And so we, in this time, had come to terms with what happened, but it was still extremely hard because I worked with people who were getting pregnant and they were my friends, and I was so excited for them. But there was times where people who didn't know my situation, and they were talking about like they were pregnant, or pregnant people would come into my work, and I was so envious because obviously like they deserved their baby and everything. Like, it wasn't in a way that like I was mad. I was just so sad that it wasn't me. After 5 months of my blood work, my HCG levels were back to normal, and then they had to stay there. It was about 4.5 months. And this time we had gotten back to like normal life, you know. Obviously we were still very, very upset that we didn't have a baby. But it was one of those situations where we couldn't try, we weren't allowed. It was very hard, and it was very hard to see other people that we knew having their babies, but it's not like we weren't happy for them. So I'll touch base about like how we were doing emotionally during this time of not being able to try. Like, we grew so much together during these 2 losses that it just like, it bonded our relationship so incredibly much. And we went to a marriage retreat during this time in Alaska, and it was in Denali, and that is just like, that is where Wayne and I find so much happiness, is hiking and in the mountains and in the nature. And we both have such a love for it, and we went hiking in Denali. It's Denali National Park. We went on a marriage retreat to Denali National Park. Wayne's work, they do like couples retreats and stuff like that for people when he was in the military does a lot of stuff like that, and they sent us to, sorry, my dogs are walking around. They sent us to Denali for a weekend, and it was absolutely incredible. And it was a marriage retreat, so you learned the 5 love languages, and that retreat and that we went into it like we're gonna get like this free trip and stuff, and we came out of it so much stronger. Like, you don't think like that love language thing is gonna do much, but you learn so much about your partner. And I think that going through those 2 losses together strengthened our relationship so much. It made me even more like passionate about becoming a mother. And in that time, like by that time, Wayne and I were parents. We were, the second we found out we were pregnant the first time, I was a mom, Wayne was a dad. So if you have gone through a loss and you don't have a baby here with you on Earth side, you're still a mother, you're still a parent. And don't let anyone make you think less of that, because you are. and you're a mother without a baby, you're a dad without a baby, and it's extremely hard. But we got PCS to Tennessee during this time of this wait before we could try. And when we moved to Tennessee, it was a whole new journey for us. We had our dogs, we bought our first home, everything was like, you know, lining up. We were but there was that missing piece. We wanted to start a family. And so my blood work carried out, I switched back to the military doctors when we moved to Tennessee. And we were so eager to try again. We wanted to have a baby so bad. Like we were so desperate to become parents. So we called our doctor in Alaska, and I talked to her, and I said, my doctor in Tennessee had faxed over my blood work and everything, and I was like, can we start trying again? And this was 7 months after our second loss. And she said, you know, I think that your blood work has been really good for the past few months. I think you are good to go to try. And so we were over the moon, and we started right away. Like, we started trying so soon. We were so excited, and lo and behold, we got pregnant. That is a blessing that I feel like has been given to me, is Wayne and I we get pregnant very easily. And we are very, very blessed in that aspect. And this pregnancy was with our little 3-year-old that you guys have seen on here, Charlotte, and she was our rainbow baby. She is our rainbow baby. Charlotte's pregnancy, I found out I was pregnant on my dad's birthday on December 5th of 2015, and I was over the moon. Like, I did not have that fear. Like, I obviously was scared. I was so scared that we were gonna have another loss, but I had hope, and I was not going to let that fear take over my pregnancy this time. The military made us wait until I was 8 weeks pregnant to go in for our first appointment for Charlotte, but I was bound and determined to hear her heartbeat before my appointment. So you know those little at-home Dopplers? Yeah, those are a blessing and a curse. If you do not find the baby's heartbeat, you can absolutely panic, even if nothing is wrong, because obviously I'm not a doctor or midwife. I don't know what I'm doing, but it is something that I found comfort in. And I bought one from a girl that was selling it, and I found on the way, like after we bought it, I was in the car and I found her heartbeat, and I was 8 weeks and like 5 days along. Because at my doctor appointment at 8 weeks, they didn't do anything. It was just kind of like, you're pregnant, here's the paperwork, let's schedule your next appointment. And then they saw you at 10 weeks. And I was just like over the moon. I found her heartbeat, and I could tell it was hers. Like, I knew like the whole trying to find like it was not my heartbeat, it was hers. And I listened to it every single day, multiple times a day. And I know that there's controversy behind that and you shouldn't, but it brought me a lot of peace of mind. And so in our first ultrasound, I was a little past 10 weeks with Charlotte, and we saw her, and she was kicking and moving, and she was just this tiny little bean, but she had little like bud arms and legs, and she was like dancing in there, and she was moving, and it was so crazy that little baby was growing. And we were at the same point in our pregnancy that we had lost our second pregnancy. So at the point where we saw Charlotte in our ultrasound for the first time was the same point of our last pregnancy that we had lost. And to see her healthy, I think that was just like, that was something that gave me absolute hope that she was going to make it to term. And we announced that we were pregnant with her when I was 11 weeks. And I remember right before I posted that I was pregnant, I listened to her heartbeat on the Doppler, because I was like, I have to be sure she's okay. And after that, we found out she was a girl as soon as we could. And I had an extremely healthy pregnancy. There was nothing like that could have been wrong. And I am so thankful for that, because if anything was wrong, I know that I would have been an absolute mess. And I am so, so grateful. And I remember feeling, this is something I never really talked about with anyone, but I remember feeling my whole pregnancy with Charlotte, I was like, I know she's healthy, I know she's a baby in there, but like I couldn't picture myself holding her. And that was really hard for me. I could not picture myself having a healthy baby, and even when I was in labor. So I can make separate videos on their birth stories. And I'm really sorry if you hear my dogs. They are like whining because they want to go outside, but there's loose dogs outside right now. But I can go into like their birth stories of the girls later. But when I was in labor, I was like, I can't imagine actually holding her. Like, I was so scared that something was gonna happen to her or me in labor. I don't know why, it was a fear. I don't know if other people have that feeling because I've never really talked to anyone about this. But I pushed very quickly and she was out and she was on me and crying instantly. And I just remember the first thing I said was, she's real. Like, she's real. I could not believe that she was real. And she is our saving grace. She just saved us. She gave me hope that there is a rainbow at the end of every storm. And that saying could not be more true, because our little Charlotte Josephine Lewis is now a healthy 3-year-old sassy little girl, and I could not be more grateful for her. So fast forward to getting pregnant for little Zoe. We had a little bit of, it was about 3 months, I think, of trying to get pregnant for Zoe. And we finally found out we were pregnant, but it was weird because I was breastfeeding Charlotte still when I first found out I was pregnant for Zoe. And so my cycles, I had only had a couple, and we had no idea like how far along I was or anything. We had tons of ultrasounds at the beginning with Zoe because we couldn't figure out how far along I was. And I was also spotting. I spotted until I was like 12 weeks pregnant for Zoe. And at the beginning, it was extremely hard. And I was just like, this isn't a viable pregnancy. I did not think the pregnancy was going to make it because I never spotted. I always had implantation bleeding with all of my other pregnancies, but with Zoe, I spotted, like, it wasn't just like regular like spotting, it was like pink spotted blood until I was 12 weeks pregnant. And at first it was extremely scary because I did not know what was going on, but I could hear her heartbeat. I found her heartbeat around 9 weeks as well. Okay, so girls had to join me, but as I was saying, Zoe's pregnancy after that, I don't know why, and they said it just happens sometimes. Sometimes people spot for a while in their pregnancy, sometimes people spot their whole pregnancy, but when that hasn't happened in your other pregnancies, it's a little scary, you know. You need a diaper change, girl. Oh, you feeding them? But I thought it would be good to end this video with our babies. Come here, come say hi. But the rest of my pregnancy for Zoe was extremely healthy. I had her at a healthy 39 weeks and 1 day. Yeah, you were a healthy baby girl. And she's got food all over her. They were just playing outside with Dad. But like I said, I will go into more detail about their birth stories. I love you. Let me kiss. What is all over your face? What did you eat? Their birth stories in a separate video. I will go over their birth stories in a separate video. But that is my journey to motherhood and my journey to my rainbow babies. And yes, I consider Zoe a rainbow baby too, because any baby after that storm, after that loss, is a rainbow baby in my book. So I hope that this video can help you in some way if you're going through something similar, or just educate people on pregnancy loss in general, because like I said, every mother's story is different. Everybody's journey to becoming a parent is different. And just because you may not have a baby on this earth, if you lost one before you got to hold them, you are still a mother and they are still your baby. And my heart goes out to everyone that has suffered a loss, and this month is all about, we always remember our babies, but this month is about remembering them and bringing awareness to their little lives. So don't eat paper. So I hope you guys found this video helpful, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye.